I'm very pleased to announce that Canada and the parties have reached two significant agreements in principle. One that provides fair and equitable compensation to First Nations children and families harmed by discriminatory underfunding, and the other addressing the long-term reform that's needed for the First Nations Child and Family Services Program. Through the agreement in principle on long-term reform and child and family services, the system will be reformed by focusing first and foremost on prevention. First Nations and First Nations child and family service providers will be better positioned to address the factors that lead to First Nations children being taken into care. They will have that stable and predictable funding that will help them to keep their children with their families and in communities. The funding includes significant investments in on-reserve housing and other major capital related to the delivery of critical child and family services and Jordan's Principle. Simply, and I think other speakers have said this, poverty cannot be a reason that a child cannot stay with their family.
This historic settlement of $40 billion has been a long time coming. First Nations from across Canada have had to work very hard for this day to provide redress for monumental wrongs against First Nation children, wrongs fueled by an inherently biased system. The Assembly of First Nations has been pressing this issue for more than 30 years, including strong advocacy by First Nations, rights holders, and families. Persistence of the Assembly of First Nations in human rights proceedings, in the courts, and now at the negotiation table. A human rights complaint launched in 2007, and our win at the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, and every effort to forge a path to end discrimination against First Nation children and families in the federal child welfare program to ensure that it never happens again. Discriminatory funding under the federal First Nations Child and Family Services programs and other decisions has led to a massive overrepresentation of First Nations children into the child welfare system in every province and territory in this country. Every day for decades, First Nations children, some even newborns, have been ripped from their families and communities, and many denied medical services and other supports when they've needed them. All at the hands of a federal child welfare program that should have protected them.
You know, some will say, well, you know what, all the public pressure and all of the litigation wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary to involve people like Sarah and David. And that $40 billion is a lot of money. Well, $40 billion is a lot of money. And I would say that it was necessary, first of all, for us to litigate, to change Canada's pattern of giving First Nations children less. And second of all, we needed the Canadian public to awaken to the injustices. This case shows you that public pressure can work. But these agreements in principle are non-binding, and nothing changes in the lives of children today. We need to commit ourselves to keeping watch on the government of Canada and holding it accountable until it lands some of these things.